My wife cheated on me with her boss, then secretly transferred $200, $0 from our joint account to her sister. And now she's claiming I'm the one trying to steal our house in the divorce. I'm lost and furious. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how I found out my wife was cheating on me with her boss, stealing money, and then trying to turn the tables and make me look like the bad guy. It's like a bad movie, but this was real life. And honestly, I still can't believe how everything unraveled so fast. One moment, I was just another guy married to his wife, thinking we had a pretty solid life, and the next, I was drowning in betrayal, lies, and confusion. It all started a few months ago, honestly. At first, I noticed little things. Lisa, my wife, was more irritable than usual. She'd come home late, excuse herself with some vague story about work needing her. She'd hide her phone constantly, and I caught her deleting messages more times than I could count. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the gut feeling was there. Something was off. Then came the night I decided to check her phone when she was out at some business dinner. I know, bad move, but I was desperate for answers. When I unlocked her phone, I didn't expect to find what I did. There were dozens of texts, mostly from her boss, Mark. Flirty, suggestive, and downright disgusting sometimes. Things like, "Can't wait to see you tonight," and "You're the only thing that keeps me going," and even some explicit sex talk. It was like reading her secret diary, and it hit me like a freight train. I remember sitting there, trembling, trying to process what I was seeing. My stomach turned. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. These messages went on for months. I saw pictures, too. Snapshots of them together, arms around each other, looking cozy. I saw receipts from fancy restaurants, hotel bookings, and even a few photos of them having sex. Sex, I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I thought was my partner, was sleeping with her boss and lying to my face every day. I couldn't just confront her. Immediately, I needed to gather more evidence. I started watching her, following her, checking her bank accounts. That's when I found out about the money transfer 200 from our joint account to her sister. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was a huge sum, way more than we'd ever agreed on. I called her out on it and she brushed me off, saying it was a gift, a loan, something her sister needed for a business venture. Yeah, right. I knew she was lying, but I didn't have proof yet. The next few days were a blur. I was furious, hurt, and honestly feeling like I was losing my mind. I kept replaying everything I'd seen, every lie I'd caught her in. I felt betrayed on every level by her boss, by the whole world. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let it get so bad. I had never felt so stupid in my life. And then the worst part hit me. She was trying to turn it around, deny everything, and act like I was the one trying to steal our house in the divorce. That was the last straw. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't know what yet. All I knew was that my life was in ruins and I was furious. After I found out about the affair and the money transfer, everything just spiraled. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept racing, trying to connect dots that didn't want to connect. Lisa, my wife, kept acting like everything was fine. She'd throw out these bitchy comments, acting like I was overreacting. She'd say, "Oh, you're just paranoid," or "You're imagining things," whenever I confronted her about the messages or the bank statements. But I knew better. I knew she was lying and I had proof. That's what made it worse. She kept lying, even when I had evidence staring her in the face. One night I decided I'd had enough of her bullshit. I sat her down in the living room, tried to keep my voice steady, but inside I was boiling. I told her I knew about her affair, about her boss, Mark, and the money transfer. I saw her eyes flicker with surprise, then quickly turn into that bitchy smirk she always wore when she thought she was winning. She looked at me and snapped, "You don't have any proof. You're just making accusations because you're insecure." That was the moment I realized she was a master manipulator. She had this way of spinning everything to make herself look innocent, even when she was caught red-handed. I decided to push harder. I told her I was done playing her games, that I had all the evidence I needed. I showed her the texts, the bank statements, the pictures, everything I had uncovered. Her face drained of color, but she still tried to deny it. "That's all fake," she hissed. You're just jealous because I spend more time at work. Mark is just a friend and the money. I was helping my sister out. You're overreacting. She kept lying, spinning stories, trying to make me doubt myself. But I wasn't buying it. I knew what I saw. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I was being punched in the gut every time she lied again. I'd loved her, trusted her, and now I was staring at her like she was some stranger. The betrayal cut deep. I'd never felt so stupid, so naive. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let it get this far. I was furious at her, but I was also heartbroken. I thought we had a good life, that we were building something. Turns out I was just fooling myself. The worst part, she kept insisting she was innocent, that I was the one trying to steal our house in the divorce, that she was the victim. She even threatened me, saying I'd regret ruining our family, that she'd fight me in court and make sure I got nothing. That's when I knew she was dangerous. She wasn't just cheating. She was trying to manipulate the entire situation to her advantage. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, and I had to start thinking about what I really wanted, whether to fight for the marriage or walk away for good. I was exhausted, broken, and furious, but I also knew one thing. I wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. After that confrontation, everything changed. I started to see her for who she really was, an expert at lying, twisting the truth, and playing the victim. But I also knew I couldn't just sit back and be a passive victim myself. I had to do something. I began digging even deeper, not just to gather evidence, but to understand exactly how far she'd gone. The money transfer to her sister's account was a major red flag, and I needed to know what she was hiding behind that move. I hired a private investigator. It wasn't cheap, but I needed the truth. Over the next few weeks, the pie confirmed what I suspected. Lisa had been funneling money to her sister, Sarah, for months. She told me it was a loan, a gift, but the pie uncovered bank transfers, receipts, and even conversations where Lisa admitted she was using the money to help Sarah start some shady online business, something she definitely didn't tell me about. It was clear she'd been planning this for a while, probably trying to cover her tracks, and I was just the last piece of the puzzle. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude grew more aggressive. She started accusing me of all kinds of things, saying I was controlling, paranoid, and that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She claimed I was trying to steal the house, that I was a jealous, insecure husband. Honestly, it was infuriating. I knew her well enough now to see she was just throwing everything she could at me to distract from her lies. She also started making scenes, yelling at me in front of friends and family, trying to paint herself as the victim. She was good at it, but I wasn't buying it anymore. One night I found her in our bedroom packing a bag. When I asked what she was doing, she snapped, "I'm leaving. I can't deal with your accusations anymore. You're crazy." That's when I realized she was planning to run, maybe with the money, maybe to disappear altogether. I told her she wasn't going anywhere until we sorted this out. That's when she started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, acting like I was the one pushing her away. The whole act made me sick. I decided I needed to confront her one last time. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about the lies, the betrayal, the theft, and her trying to manipulate the entire situation. I sat her down and told her I had enough. I told her I knew about the affair, the money transfer, the online business she was running with her sister, and her attempt to gaslight me into thinking I was the bad guy. I told her I was done being played. I was going to lawyer up, get a divorce, and make sure she paid for everything she'd done. Her eyes flashed with anger and desperation. She yelled, called me every name in the book, and accused me of trying to ruin her life. But I stayed calm. I told her she'd pushed me too far, that I wasn't going to be her pawn anymore, and that she'd regret ever crossing me. I'd had enough of her lies, her cheating, her manipulation. That night I realized I was done with her games. I had to protect myself, my money, and my future. Whatever came next, I knew I'd never trust her again. And honestly, I didn't want to. The next day, I scheduled a meeting with a divorce attorney. I knew I had to get everything in order: bank accounts, proof of her affair, the money transfer, the texts, the photos. I wanted to make sure I was prepared for whatever legal battle was coming. I also contacted a financial advisor to see what my options were, especially after discovering she transferred so much money to her sister. The betrayal was one thing, but the financial shitstorm was another. While I was doing all this, Lisa kept trying to guilt me. She said I was ruining her life, that I was just jealous and insecure, and that I was trying to steal her happiness and our house. She even went as far as to claim I was trying to manipulate the divorce to get more money out of her, like I was some kind of scheming villain. It was laughable, honestly. She was the one cheating, lying, stealing, and now she was trying to paint herself as the victim. I didn't let her get to me. I stayed calm, collected, and focused on my plan. I gathered every piece of evidence I could: screenshots, bank statements, witness statements from friends who knew about her affair, even some recordings I managed to sneak when she wasn't paying attention. I wanted to go into court with my ducks in a row. I knew this wasn't just about the affair anymore. It was about her theft, her deception, and her attempt to manipulate the entire situation. As the days went on, I started to feel a strange mix of anger, relief, and exhaustion. The anger was still there, burning like a fire in my chest. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind for so long, trusting her, building a life with her. The relief came from finally having all the pieces, knowing I was taking control. But the exhaustion was the worst. Dealing with her lies, her manipulations, and the stress of the legal process was draining. I'd never felt so worn out in my life. One night she showed up at my door crying, begging me to forgive her, saying she was sorry, that she'd change. I looked at her and saw right through her act. I told her I didn't want to hear her lies anymore, that I was done trusting her, and that I was going to make sure she paid for what she did. I told her she could try to manipulate me, but I was done with her games. I was ready to fight for my rights, for my money, and for the truth. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I also knew I'd never let her hurt me again. That night I stayed up late going over everything one last time. I realized I was finally ready to face whatever came next. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage anymore. I was fighting to reclaim my life from a woman who had betrayed me on every level. And as I looked at the documents, the evidence, and the legal papers I had gathered, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I was done being the victim. It was time to take control and make sure she paid for her lies. The legal process moved faster than I expected once I had all my evidence in order. My lawyer filed for divorce, and I made it clear from the start that I wasn't interested in any kind of reconciliation. I wanted transparency, justice, and to ensure she didn't get away with the theft or the lies. The court date was set, and I knew it was going to be a rough ride, but I was ready. I had everything I needed: screenshots, bank statements, witness testimonies, and even a few recordings I managed to get without her knowing. The first hearing was brutal. Lisa showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days, her face flushed, her eyes darting around. She tried to spin her stories again, claiming I was exaggerating, that I was trying to ruin her reputation. She insisted the money transfer was a gift, that the affair was just a misunderstanding, and that I was just jealous because she was more successful than me. She played the victim, crying, yelling, throwing tantrums. But I stayed calm, sticking to the facts I'd gathered. I saw right through her act. She was desperate to save herself, but I wasn't buying it anymore. During the proceedings, my lawyer presented the evidence of her affair: the texts, the explicit messages with Mark, and the bank records showing the transfer of $200, $0. The judge listened carefully, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. It was clear she was trying to minimize everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. When it came to the house, I made it known that I wanted full ownership, especially after everything she'd done. She tried to argue, claiming she deserved half, claiming I was trying to steal her money, but the judge cut her off. The law was clear: her betrayal, her theft, and her lies were grounds for a fair division. And I was determined to get what was rightfully mine. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Lisa's attempt to manipulate the situation backfired. The court awarded me full custody of the house, and she was ordered to pay back the money she transferred illegally. She protested, called me every name in the book, but it didn't matter. I was finally starting to see the light at the end of this dark tunnel. I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. Relief, because I finally had my life back. Anger because I knew she'd hurt me deeply. But the biggest shock came when I discovered she'd been plotting to move to another state, trying to take the money she'd stolen and start over. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I hired a private investigator again, caught her trying to sneak out with some of the remaining money, and stopped her before she could leave. That was the moment I realized how far she'd go to escape her consequences. I had to be relentless to protect what was mine. In the end, I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. I also learned that betrayal cuts deep, but it can also serve as a wake-up call. I don't regret uncovering everything, every lie, every secret, every betrayal, because it set me free. I'm still healing, still trying to put the pieces back together, but I know I'll be okay. I just wish I'd seen the signs earlier, but at least now I have my life back, and I won't let anyone take that away from me again. Looking back now, I realize how much this whole nightmare changed me. I used to trust blindly, believe in the best of people, but betrayal teaches you hard lessons. I've learned to be cautious, to listen to my instincts, and most importantly, to stand my ground when someone crosses the line. Lisa's betrayal wasn't just about the affair or the money. It was about trust, respect, and the foundation of what we built together. Once that's shattered, rebuilding feels almost impossible, but I'm slowly finding my way. The aftermath has been a mix of relief, anger, and a strange sense of empowerment. I finally feel like I'm in control of my life again. The divorce is finalized, and I've started to pick up the pieces, moving into a new place, focusing on my career and reconnecting with friends and family who stood by me through all of this. It's been a tough road, no doubt. There were nights I doubted myself, nights I felt like I'd never recover from the hurt. But each day I choose to move forward, to leave her behind, and to rebuild what I lost. One thing I've come to understand is that betrayal can come from anywhere, even from the people closest to you. It's a harsh reality, but it's also a lesson in resilience. I've learned not to take anything for granted, to keep my eyes open, and to value honesty above all else. I don't hold on to resentment, but I do hold on to the knowledge that I survived something I never thought I could. And I did it without losing myself. If there's anything I want others to take from my story, it's this: trust is precious, but it's fragile. Be vigilant. Listen to your gut. When something feels off, don't ignore it. Confront it head on, gather your evidence, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. No one should ever tolerate betrayal, especially when it's coming from someone you love. Protect your heart, your money, your peace of mind. Because in the end, your happiness is what truly matters. I've come out of this stronger, wiser, and more cautious. I don't regret uncovering her lies, even though it hurt like hell. It was necessary. I learned that sometimes you have to fight for yourself, even if it means tearing down everything you thought was real. And now I finally feel ready to move on, to rebuild my life on my own terms without her. That's all I can ask for.